There you go.
I can have your attention to the call to order the Personnel Committee to Washington County Board of Supervisors for April 9th, 2026. First thing on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. We have someone to move the minutes. John, we have a second. Lance, is there any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, carried. Move on to staffing and Janelle.
So I do have a few straight backfills. One is for county clerk. We have a county archivist that vacated on April 4th due to a resignation. For DPW, we had a welder fabricator vacate on March 30th due to retirement. And also a heavy equipment mechanic vacated that position on March 30th due to actually the position change into the welder fabricator position. So.
Do we have any questions on those? These are the ones
What
that.
happened there?
you-
Yeah,
any
they were
questions on those? It's just for
vetted.
information, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Now take us down now to the staffing pattern.
Okay, so the next item was from public safety. It was for alternative sentencing. And it was a request for a staffing pattern change and a title by grade addition, which was a request to add one alternative sentencing intern at a grade 8 level.
Do you have any questions on that?
We just need approval for the staffing pattern change and to move to finance for the title by grade.
Is it come
Motion,
from?
second for conversation.
This came from public safety.
And
We
so,
got a motion in a second, and we'll have discussion.
yeah, so you're gonna see this in finance if we approve it. So what? Just to get this all clarified, because of our discussion for finance. It was not in the past budget. They just got a grant in February that we added to the budget that pays for this intern. So that's why the money's there in the positions. So just so everyone understands. So the money came, right, the money came through the grant and now we've accepted the grant. Now we're just accepting the position that the grant's.
Got you.
Well,
Jen, Hey, your name.
Gonna say, the position was with the caveat, it's there as long as grant. money is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct, that's what it was, yes.
So once the money got moved in, now we're just adding person and it's an intern, they go away anyway.
Nate, did you have,
No, I was saying.
okay, John, you had your hand, somebody else, I thought,
Same thing.
got same situation. Anyone else have any? All in favor, aye? Opposed, carried.
So the next item was moved from government ops. It's for the county clerk. A request for a staffing pattern change, which would be adding 2 part-time motor vehicle licensed clerks and remove a full-time position. Lisa is here, which she can explain if you have any
Would you like to
questions.
explain before we ask for the motion, please?
We had someone resign, they ended up leaving back on March 3rd. And, thought that this would be a good way to bring back an experienced part-time employee. It is going to save, the county over 18,000 just in benefits. And we are able to have somebody jump right in and not have a several month lag in their training, get them to be on a DMV. Especially as we're coming on the busiest times of the year.
We have a motion to move it.
Motion to move it with
We have a second, and we'll have
discussion.
discussion.
I'll second first.
Okay, discuss, second for discussion.
So on the second part-time Lisa, is that what happens when that comes into place or is hired? What happens with the money then?
The money is
Well-
it's still gonna save you money.
What would that be?
It is, because they're coming in at a grade 9 base level. And that's 21.69 an hour. The person that left was at 22.24. And our part-timer is at 23.69. The part-timer would not want to work more than 15 hours. So if you take 23.69 times 15, and we have a base salary of 21.69, 20 hours. it's still saving us like $1,800 over what we have. And that's part of the 18.5 in benefit savings.
Jay,
I mean, that's with the caveat that the part-timer isn't working more than 15 hours, correct?
We have a
Neither one of
20
them,
20 and 15.
20 and 15.
Right, I mean, you gotta hold those lines if you're gonna keep the costs.
Absolutely, and our part-timer, if she's done working, because she's doing dealership work right now. If she is done at 4 o'clock and she's done all the dealer work, she leaves at 4.
Nate, did you have a question?
Yes, will the full-time position be removed from the staffing pattern?
Yes.
I just want to clarify
Ashley?
one more time. One that's coming back, a higher rated salary is the one working fewer hours. Just clarifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have any other questions? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. The next one.
So the next item is for the district attorney. It's to add the salary increase, which was pursuant to judiciary law. The increase was $225,600 effective April 1st. We just need to update the exempt salary schedule, so this would actually move to finance. You have approval for that.
Do you have a motion to approve the statutory rate increase? Brian, you have a second? Lance, any discussion? Jay?
How much does the state kick in on this?
Nothing usually.
So the whole amount is ours, I mean, there's not.
Well, no, they're paying half of the
We're not getting-
original,
We're
but,
not getting any more.
right, we're not getting any more money. But they're paying half of the original back when it was
Right, like
It's
100,000 or something.
Yeah, it's-
60 or 70,000, something
I
like that.
feel like 78 or 79 is in my head, but I could check for you.
But every time it's added, we pay the whole
But
shot.
the increases are.
I just wanna make the statement that I really
Yeah,
despise the fact the state is dictating our salaries to us and, you know, we're a small little country county here and we're having to pay the same rates as the city, so.
And this is, doesn't make sense.
done by design.
This is statewide.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's-
it is.
they manage the judges,
Gotta
right?
match the
Right.
budget.
Oh, that was I said in pre-finance.
Right.
And I think procedurally, because it's in our exempt salaries, we have to do a public hearing in the whole bit. Or no?
I don't think that's on the local.
No, you're talking
Oh,
about.
he's not on it. Okay.
You're talking local law.
Oh, thank God we don't have to go through that.
If the resolution couldn't vote on it April 1st for me, that would be fantastic. I appreciate it.
Any other conversation?
No.
What he means is nothing for me.
We understand now.
Nothing printable, statement right there.
Yeah.
I'm curious how this works, because there is longevity involved. Okay, so the base rate, what happens with what?
There's not longevity in
There's no.
non-elected officials.
So it is just an increase.
It's just a flat. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it was 4,500.
So
was
the
the
increase was
increase from last
500.
Yeah, any further questions or discussion? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. Down to 4, Public Works.
So we had this was moved from Public Works, so it was a request to add one highway worker 1 for the construction season. It would be a staffing pattern change to add that one position.
We have a motion to move that.
Louder.
Flagger.
Right.
So I guess,
I'll make a motion. Motion to move it.
so I said, it's a second for that purpose. Any discussion? No, Nate?
Is this position already in the budget?
No.
No.
There are 6 positions like it in the budget.
Right, but this position would be making number 7.
She
Yes.
believes the breakage would cover this with some of
You
the
want-
positions that are vacant.
Right.
At the end of the season.
Correct, I remember the discussion. This is more of a safety discussion.
Correct.
So do you want to close the roads to pave, cut trees or whatever, or do you want a flagger there? Because the safety's still gotta be an issue either way.
Holes roads, I think holes in the road would be the.
Well, it's probably ideal anyway, because you still have less liability if the road's closed, but you can't always do that.
Right. Will this person be following job assignments or will be based out of one barn?
Don't know.
Don't know for sure.
I'm sure that's job assignments, because it's gotta be wherever they're doing the work.
They're dispensing whatever road project is.
Whatever road project they're on, yeah. And I think we always had a dozen, and I don't know that we ever used over 10, so it's just according to what's available on one day.
Chairman?
I think that the flaggers would report with Brian, they report to the.
To the job sites.
And if you don't have some flaggers, higher paid than the old flag.
Right now there are
Somebody-
6.
Yeah.
So
There are currently 6 on the staffing
Yeah.
group, so this would make 7, and I believe there were 12.
There were 12.
Yeah.
any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Myself and me. Okay,
So,
other business?
I do have an other. This was moved from government ops from the county attorney, and just like to discuss the home rule legislation about residency for the deputy.
Yeah, it's, as I said, I've had, lackluster interest in the position so far. At least as far as anybody moving to the county or anyone who I've asked to buy. This is kind of the easy part. This is simply asking our assembly people and senators to put the legislation forward, whether they do or not, is another question. I still have not received the opinion that I requested from the Attorney General as to whether there would be an issue because it's the deputy position. I know in a number of Section 3 of the Public Officers Law, there's actually probably more exceptions than the rule. We even have an exception in the law for our assistant district attorneys, but it specifically exempts the first assistant. However, I do know that for the county attorney position, I believe in Putnam County, they do allow that attorney to reside outside the county. So I believe it can be done. This legislation resolution that I'm asking the board to pass, is just basically ask the legislature to change it, whether they do or not. Is up to them. This is, as Al said, this is the easy part of the process.
well, the bigger discussion is, would we want our deputy to live outside the county?
That's what I was just gonna say.
That's the bigger
Before we get to
discussion.
this, we
Yeah.
gotta make that decision and decide.
I mean, I'll say this, obviously, I prefer the deputy live in the county. The people I've talked to, I've asked them to live in the county where my concern kind of lies, and it gives me some flexibility. Is right now the 2 assistant positions that I have, neither one resides in the county. And God forbid something happens to me, they technically can't act in my stead. And also I've talked about potentially cutting a position in my office to save money, but this is the position I can't cut. I would have to eventually, if I were to do that, the plan would hopefully be to move 2 people in my office up and then potentially cut the assistant position, which would be some budgetary savings. So that's kind of what my plan is if I can't get the position filled.
But even in that instance, if something happened that you weren't available, from whatever the cause
Well,
may
if
be,
they pass.
they cannot be the county attorney.
They can't
at
be
that point.
they can't be the
So
county
it's
attorney,
kind of-
they can't be the
well, you
county.
still kinda
Let's put it this
have-
way,
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to appoint them the full-time
Yeah.
county attorney if they didn't move, but with this, they would at least be able to function in my absence.
Which is important also.
Go ahead, John.
We don't have a motion made, right? And this is just to send this to the,
All this would do at this point is be requesting of legislators to try to pass an amendment to the public officers law to allow this to happen.
I made the motion. The second motion.
Any discussion?
You don't get me wrong, if I get an application in, I'm gonna say, you gotta come here, that's a given. At this point, as I said, it's been 7 months with 2 applications, one I'm not sure was a valid one, cause it came at 3 in the morning. And the other person, I had the interview scheduled and then backed out before.
So what's really doing, opening up your field of options.
Correct.
So if you were to fill this, because you didn't have anybody at one time, would put somebody from out of county in that position. And afterwards, someone from the county that moved in was interested in that position, we could switch. Based on-
Depending on who the person is. Right now, my plan would be, if they allowed it, would be to move my supervising assistant up, Hannah. She's only been here a couple of years, but she's been doing a really good job. She would be the natural fit. But if at some point, as I said, when she position opened up, I told her at the time, due to the experience and the fact that you don't live here, I can't ask you. Sure. But she's been doing a really great job, and if this came to pass, that would be my first option, at least until somebody who wanted to move in the county came forward.
Would this change in the law affect anything other than your department?
No, as I said, there's already a exception built in for the DA's office.
Gotcha.
That's already in the law.
And we've got nearly as much call as Putnam County.
I was just
Really
questioning
positive about
because
this.
it's gonna be in the public office law, and I didn't know exactly who fell under that. Yeah, I'm sure. John?
I guess I got one question.
Yes.
Next week, so I'm asking you, she moves up a week after somebody comes in from the county. What would be
Yeah, how do you
does
do
she
that?
stay there or?
Well,
Is she gonna be
if something
forced
happens
out?
to me, she would be the acting county attorney until the board appointed somebody in my place.
Or we could, if this law passed or they give us. The county could also say. The board could also say we'd like to keep her. Sure. And. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Due to the fact that it's already April and they adjourn in what, June?
I gotta get a budget mess first.
Right, do you think they'll even act on it this year?
I don't
I mean,
know.
you still gotta
I
put it
guess-
in motion, I get that.
As I said, what I'm trying to do is if I have the option, that'll give me some potential budgetary options.
But I mean, I question, them in budget this late, that it would ever even get to their table.
It may not. I brought it forward about there was some discussion during budget time last year. And I kind of wanted to do it at the beginning of the year, and we waited to see how the whole assigned counsel, public defender thing kind of worked out. And I believe the exact words I was given was good idea, bad timing.
Yeah, sure, that was the case.
As I said, I'm doing the best I can with what I have.
Pretty good. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
I don't have any other.
That's it. Does anyone else have anything to go for committee?
Yeah, just because we're fresh off evaluations, I would like to do it differently going forward. I don't know if anybody was happy the way the evaluations went. It seemed like we degraded or undermined department heads, administrator, even the board itself, in the way the whole thing unraveled. So I would in hopes that even when our discussions with Bonadio, one of our discussions was, when we do some of these things, it should be like a progress report where you make people feel better about their job. And we really want to help you get better. And I think that's where we should go with this. I'd like to take the pages they put with all their goals and things and have that be the starting point next year. Have them fill out another one. And then our questions be, did you reach your goals of A, B, and C? And if you didn't, why? Were we the problem? What was that I think we gotta go about, and we need to be a little more uplifting to make some of those things happen. Cause the way we're doing it, we just tear down everyone and it's like a chaos race instead of actually doing what the evaluation is supposed to do. That's my concern, and I hope everyone else will, give your thoughts and comments on how you'd like to do it, but I just think coming straight off it, it's the time to discuss it now rather than say, oh, let's just do it the way we did it last year.
All right, we got some time to discuss that. Anything else?
I was going to say, I agree with Ryan. I've been here and I've come to the, reviews every year they're here. I know, go back, they said, but anyway, lots of years, there's been only the committee and Mr. Roselle. Some years there's a committee and a handful of other people. So as the fact this year, I was happy to see there was a lot more attendance, but the days, I just did not feel good when I left. I was walked out of here like, it's program. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was beneficial. And of all the years I've been here, this was the first year I was really not happy. So I think we need to make some changes. And other supervisors have mentioned it too, so everybody doesn't have to talk about it. I didn't enjoy it this year and I didn't feel like we could have done better.
We could have done worse too.
We could have done worse. We could have done better.
But
We have to find
and I'll take responsibility for that. I think if we call them in here, it's more or less an executive session. And we have something on our mind as supervisors that we have an issue that we need to discuss. I think that's the appropriate place to do it. If we can't get it worked out with the department, the chairmen of those committees prior to. Because that's the purpose of an evaluation
Oh,
is to,
what you did in your write-ups and your summaries were fine based on the discussion. I just think we've done it this way for a while. Let's try something a little bit different for the next one. I mean, if it changed every 2 years, you change how they do it anyway.
Sure.
It's just a comment, and like you said, we have time to think about it. We don't need to debate it. I just wanted to put it out there because
That's-
it's more than one person saying.
Yep.
they were-
I know we've tried a couple other things and everything we seem to
We
just go back
seem to
to.
go back.
Exactly. Melissa,
I don't know what happened this year with the evaluations. They're much different than they were last year. Last year, there was more conversation between the department heads and the supervisors, and I think it was more beneficial. This time, it seemed more like a report card, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and you're right, I think, Vice Chair Fedler, it made a lot of us really not happy when we left for the day, and when morale's kind of where it is to start with, it probably was not beneficial to the overall. So I like the comments that you all do, and I think having that written down with maybe some suggestions or something is the way to go. But I think this check mark thing, I think that kind of works against us. Yeah.
John,
I've been against the check mark thing right from the beginning. I told you, it should be a flat line.
We're finally
And
on
I'm
the
the
page.
cause this year, as far as I'm concerned, I'll take blame. Every department got pressured because we didn't have the money. The supervisors had to take a chance. And, I think we gotta do something different. I've been against the check mark deals all right from day one.
Dave, do you have your hand up?
So in their reviews, every single year, they ask, what are the goals for this year? And then what the purpose of that was so when they came in for the reviews, they gave you what their goals were. And we had the capability to say, how did you meet your goals? What happened? What didn't happen? Why didn't it happen? What are you gonna shift into goals for next year? And that's the purpose of having it in there, and I don't think we did that. I think we just went through the quick way of saying, what's your rating, and gone through there. I don't like the check marks, yes, no, maybe. I do like the fact that we should pay more attention to pulling out what they said they were gonna do last year, what they achieved, and what their goals are for next year. I also have to realize that there's been some big changes to the county last year, which is affecting the morale of our employees. Yep. And to a large extent us. And I don't think that supervisors really realize the impact of the changes last year where people didn't know what was gonna happen.
Yep.
We still don't know. Yeah, and that was consistent.
And we won't know as time goes on,
That's correct.
so. Yeah,
Can I make a suggestion, just because I know on the form, it says either 90-day or annual evaluation. Maybe something that the board would like to do is I realize it starts to run into budget season, but you know, maybe August, September, instead of having everybody packed in with 2 or 3 days, you do kind of a mid-year review, see where things are going. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. So it is always kind of tough at the end of the year. You know, it's like I said, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me, because I can't change it unless I know it. And I said, I realize it runs into other things and gets a little more confusing, but maybe bringing in 1 or 2 at a given time, spread out more, where you can have a more in-depth discussion might be something to consider.
And the time frame is the problem there. August, everyone's away. In September, we're into budget.
But the point is the same, which is
Yes.
evaluation really needs to be a process, which starts with what are your goals for the season, you know, or.
But you almost need the one from the year before to say.
Well, yes, you do.
No,
It is.
and we haven't ever done that. You gotta include the last one and the new one, and then have the discussion now.
It can't just be one.
No, it's
you know,
gotta be
big
process.
finale here, you know, where you're sitting in front of a murder board of folks who don't necessarily agree on things either, you know, that just makes it more potential.
My only concern with that is don't need to slide into a situation where everybody is trophy. And my suggestion for that is, in the military, there was a type of evaluation where it didn't matter who you were, you got a needs improvement. This is what you can improve and work out for the next year. And that could be something that is received, I think, a little bit better as something to work towards instead of a knock. I think it puts a different perspective on the whole evaluation, that these are the goals that you set, and you met these, and then these are the things.
John? Wayne, the chairman.
When you set goals, when an employee sets goals, those goals should be developed between the supervisor and the employee. I could come in with 50 goals and my supervisors may feel that they're inappropriate or they're not directed in the same way. So when you talk about process, that's part of the process, is that the goal is developed between the employee and the supervisor. I mean, it's great to start with the employee setting goals, and then you evaluate those goals together, maybe by many, or because we're all kind of different committee ships. But I think that's the part of the process that might be missing, because then how do you evaluate them the next year? And you say, well, that goal doesn't make any sense. Well, where do we come up with that goal? So.
Makes sense. Chairman?
Glad you're having this conversation. Seem to do this every couple of years and flail ourselves with first branches and go on, but I think that if we kind of along the line that Scott was going, if we had a performance evaluation that was based on 2 things, accomplishments and expectations. What have you done? What do you expect you want to do? What do we expect you to do? Make that second one conform. I also think Dan's got a point. Maybe we've got to do this often, once a year. And you might be able to just convene a personnel combined with their oversight committee. You know, take 10 minutes at the beginning or the end to do this periodically 2 or 3 times a year. But I think expectations and accomplishments are probably what we ought to be looking at pretty clearly.
I guess, and I've said this before, and I'll just repeat it one more time, because that's my personal feelings. We get to see these people every month. They come before our committees that they report to. For those supervisors that come in, that are available to come in, we get to hear what they're doing. It shouldn't be just a one-day thing that's being evaluated. Okay, it should be throughout the year. And that's how I look at it, throughout the year, because I see them. Sometimes they come in, they're right on with what they want. Other times they come in and they struggle. As I did when I was a chair or a department head. So I don't. And they need to work with the committee chairs. That's what we have committee chairs for. If they have a problem, they have an issue, they should start there with that committee chair. And it's like Dwayne said, that's who we should be talking to when we start doing the positions and what are your goals or what are your objectives, those types of things. And working through there. But I think, and I'm not lecturing anybody, I'm just telling you that's the way I look at it. I look at it that every time they come in and give us a report, and we see them every month, no matter what department they're in, that's part of the evaluation. That's a time for them to start telling us their problems. Now wait till the end. And if you think back here, every person that came in, did you have any questions or any concerns that you wanted to talk before we started the evaluation process? They were all given that opportunity. Didn't have it on paper, but they were all given that opportunity. And I'm not being defensive about that. I'm just telling you that opportunity was there for those that may or may not have attended some of these. And yeah, we can take a look at changing it. You know, it's go ahead, Vince.
I was actually, Melissa, kind of trying to jump in at one point. You're kind of our senior full-time rep to the departments.
I like where you're all going with it, because I think that maybe it is, instead of it being more evaluations, maybe it's just more of at the committee level with the committee chair, set the goals of where the county wants to go, whether it's, you know, whatever your goals are as supervisors, where you want to see the county go and what the departments can do to get us there. And maybe that's where those goals are, instead of the department head saying, these are my goals, right? Maybe it's more of a collaborative effort. I like that. I think that's a much more effective way to go.
We've talked about goals and everything. But I think we're bypassing the whole main problem. And I believe that falls back on the supervisor, is the morale issue too.
Exactly.
I mean, there's fingers pointed at every department has morale issues. So I believe that would be taken away from the department heads and put on our fault. It isn't like just one department, it's just about every department.
I had that problem.
And how to conquer it, I don't know, but I think we gotta start with us to start with. And not blame any single department head for low morale.
So
I think every person that came through the personnel, said that to us. Watch what we say in a meeting. Be careful, try to be positive. Every single department head that came through here said that we're trying the hardest to work through our budgets. And everybody works differently, but they gave us that information to us. We heard that over and over and over again. I think that, you know, accomplishments and expectations, I don't think we think about or appreciate the accomplishments that each of our department heads have made. I mean, this past year, the fact that they're all still here, to me, is amazing. Okay, we put a lot of pressure on them. Yet they want to be in this county and they're staying here and they're working because they love the county. So to beat them up is a hard thing to do. Yes, we can expect that this might change or that might change, but the fact is that they're still here. They're working hard, they're making their departments toe the line, they're cutting people, they have people, desks that are empty. And in that evaluation, it all went on, I think each of them walked away feeling it was on their heads. And it's not, it's a countywide issue. It's not just a one department head.
And
I
I think Melissa really went to the right spot.
Yeah.
That what we really need to do is we set the goals and objectives for the department. We do not care how they achieve them as long as it's legal and fits under our policy. That's really the truth of the matter. We've gotten too far down. We're up here. And we hired these people because we expect they can do their job. We can't belittle them. We need to be up here and say, you do A, B, and C. And when you come in next year, did you do A, B, and C? Yes, I did. Are we happy with that? Yes, we are. Or no, we're not.
We're back to some very short evaluations.
That's right. I think that's really, but I think we just need to be a little different level. I think we've gotten in the wrong area.
I think that's correct, Brian, but the fact is we hired them because they have a different type of profession than you and I.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, we're in
So-
agreement on that.
Okay,
So we don't know
So we're
how
gonna
to
tell them
do
what
their
to do.
job. No, we tell them what our goal is as a county. We do not tell them what to do.
Thank you.
We tell them what our goals are. We want your department to accomplish these goals. This is what our taxpayers need. That's our job. That's why taxpayers elect
We
us.
have to give them the access to do that.
What's that?
We have to give them the access to do that. That's the next.
Yeah,
issue.
and if they don't, if they aren't able to do them because we didn't give them the assets, that should be their answer.
Right.
I didn't achieve that because you took this away or you didn't give me that. That's,
Kevin used to have a great way of describing what you're saying, and it just popped into my head as you were talking. Kevin used to say it all the time. Tell me you want to go to Jamaica, I'll get the best flight to get there, right? That, I think that is a great way to kind of summarize what you just said. The board dreams the dream. Trust your department head to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? You set the direction, you set the goal. Look, next year I want X, Y, and Z. Then you trust your department head that you hired to make X, Y, and Z happen to the best, most efficient way they can do that. I think that's a great way to look at
And
it.
if they can't do that,
Then you are their
there's that
support.
opportunity to discuss why we could.
yes,
They
that's
should
what
never-
this should be.
Yeah.
It should never be a surprise in an evaluation.
Right.
Evaluations are done on a daily basis around here.
And they are.
You should always know,
Right.
right? If there's a deficiency, you shouldn't find out with your evaluation.
Scott Hahn was,
And it-
Scott Hahn was totally right. There's not any one of us that you couldn't say there's an area you need improvement. We all know ourselves. Our department heads know themselves where they need improvement. What is wrong is if you think they need improvement in an area where they didn't think they need improvement and they know they need improvement where you don't know they need improvement. That's the page we need to get on.
So can we take the notes from this meeting today and discuss it and then bring something back to personnel
Absolutely.
to see instead of waiting like.
I
you
just
said,
didn't
a
wanna,
year.
I just didn't wanna wait till, oh, it's time to do the evaluations. Oh, we'll just do it the same way.
Right.
So we got Danielle, we got Dave, and then we got me.
I'm good. I think it was.
That's yours,
done.
Dave?
Yeah.
So if we take the step, they gave us, what they wanted to accomplish for the year. That's based on what direction we gave them, where we want to go. Maybe the conversation should be when they walk in, you got any questions? No, it should be, hey, John, you told me, like, we told us last year, these are the things you wanted to accomplish. Those are those things you wanted to accomplish. Why didn't you, why weren't you able to accomplish them? How are you gonna plan the next year to get to where you wanna go? So that's a conversation start. That's not building a wall between the employee and the department heads and the board. That's building a conversation that will lead to someplace. And Melissa should have the contribution to it too, because she's the one that sees more of the day-to-day activities of what's going on in the county.
And couldn't that be done in advance though? See, that was ideal. Here's your old one. Go from here and tell that. They can have that format done. And now the conversation is starting when you come in the room.
And I'd love to start it at the committee level, right? Like, that doesn't have to be an executive session where you would like your committees to go. The department heads that are in those committees, that can be discussed here,
Yeah.
right? What the goals are of the county.
All I want to add is, we as a board have to recognize in these evaluations that every department head has their own challenges that are individual from everybody else's department. Yes, as some, like Dwayne, deals directly with the state of New York. You know, they are basically his overseer, we are not. But Debbie and Sheriff Murphy unfortunately fall under our discretionary spending. And they face another whole set of challenges, and each department's challenges has to be recognized as unique by the Board of Supervisors. That they're facing challenges that another department may not be facing. And I think that has to be taken into consideration too.
So the intent would be that Melissa and Danielle takes all the information you got back here, because presents us something as to how to best do this. Perfect. Does that work? Everybody in favor of that? Good to go? All right. Is there anything else to come before the committee at this point in time? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, first thing I wanna say is everybody in their mailbox has their report on the animal rescue shelter. Great proposal, don't agree with, a lot of the numbers. The idea is all good, and we all love animals and that's great. Couple of things about this is I expected to have a civilized discussion. I guess my expectations were too high. I met with the lady at 9:30 in the morning. I, I had asked the chairman to attend, he wasn't able to make it, cause I knew I shouldn't be left alone. I listened intently for 10 minutes.
That's a pretty good rule in general.
Yeah. I listened intently for 10 minutes, and when I realized there was gonna be nothing in common and whatever, yes, I pushed her buttons and went off the rails and, what she told me, whatever. In the meantime, I had a meeting with Tony Jordan. And next thing I know, there's crew here and in all due respect, I reached out to Matt Simpson and the sheriff to find out if any of it was correct. Because the claim was they were all on board. And they basically told me, no, it's according to how you word. Matt Simpson says, yeah, everything is based on whether the local government decides to go that road, whether we will jump in. And Carrie Warner said that well in her statement. And so I thought that was very interesting. So needless to say, I meet with Tony Jordan, they're in the building and I'm not even aware of it. It was, as Dan Levy said, I'm sorry we ambushed you. That was his words. I don't even know they're there because I'm meeting in the committee room, not even in my office. And so when they arrived, Stacy was good enough to let me know they were there. And I said, listen, I'm in a meeting. I got 10 minutes left with Tony. 15 minutes, I'll meet with him. And we met right down here in my house office. So my first opinion was, hey, Tony, I know we got 10 minutes to talk, but I need 5 minutes of your time. Can I go out and tell him what Brian Campbell would tell him? He goes, absolutely not. I said, well, that's fair. I figured I couldn't. So that's kind of where it went. So everyone has a difference of opinion on whether I did good, bad, or indifferent. Tony and Dan seem to be happy with what I said. I think the chairman is. So he didn't like the way I smiled, but that's okay. But that, you gotta remember in a 10-minute conversation, they take the snippets you want. Actually, channel 10's was quite different from channel 13's, which is kind of impressive when we're all there at the same time. I only thought there was one group there. I didn't realize there was two groups until they left. They never really said who they were, or I just knew Dan Levy. So I'm more talking to Dan, not realizing that cameras are rolling the whole time and they just take the snippet they want. And I should have been more aware of that. But we had a lot of things to discuss. So there was a mention in there. I did mention because they were telling that the fiscal problem in Washington County was our fault. And I go, well, it was because we didn't hold people to their budgets. And I said, that's what happens. And I did say, I'll admit it, I was writing this one snippet. I said, well, our fiscal loss was in DSS. That was our biggest loss. And when anybody talks about their biggest gain and the biggest loss, they know where they are. So I did make that comment. So then we get to the morale issue. So here's where I'm really opposed. Morale in this building isn't as bad as it was made up to be. I can name half a dozen departments and I'm not gonna. Morale is fine. But, and I'll tell you, the clerk of the board's office is one. Morale in our office is really, really good. So you can't say every department has a morale. I think money would fix a lot of the morale issue because we do, and we're working on that and everybody knows. Part that really got me was we have a department head that has schooled us on how we talk to people. I vouch for that. I can say enough things that I shouldn't say. But damn it, don't put words in my mouth to make it worse. There was an email sent out yesterday to a department from a department head that actually wanted to school us before and me personally. And in that, he said that I claimed we didn't have an animal shelter due to their department. Something I never said. You can all watch the snippets. Being indigenous, as you would say.
I'm sorry.
Disingenuous.
Disingenuous. Being disingenuous, as I was told, is the polite way to say this, is the biggest way to ruin morale. If you want to help morale, always be honest with your people. I've tried to be honest with everyone here, every department head, every supervisor, every taxpayer. Being disingenuous is not what I do. And so if you want to send to your department head something disingenuous about me, I find that passive aggressive and I don't like it. And I'm gonna tell you I'm unhappy with it. Now, everyone's probably in the room, why would you even say that? So you can go back on Zoom and watch it every time and know that I'm unhappy with that. And that's not personal. That should never happen. And we're causing that. And so that's how we ruin morale, is by allowing that to happen. Let's just be honest with everybody from the word go. Chairman.
We're kind of off the
Yes, we are.
finance here. I think that, you know, we're all gonna talk about morale full time for the next, 6 months probably. I think that, we've got a problem within the county with our very active and seemingly increasing overall. And I think we've all got to try and not feed into it and, think about what we're saying here and there and everywhere, but we need to hear everything in public here.
So I'm gonna address that and move right on. There's nothing here I've said as a rumor, and I can prove it. Anyone wants to see me after the meeting, they can.
No one has ever said you said anything that was not true. The only concern I would have is the thing that didn't need to be said, but
That happens.
I also understand in these, when you're English with the TV interview, and you're back and forth, they pick out the stuff that is the most controversial. The best thing for me, especially government motivated, and I think that, that's just the way it is. I think we've all got to, as department heads and supervisors, to work canvas to watch the rumor mill. I think the rumor mill damages morale more than anything. And, I guess I'll say more of that. It's just how we're kind of straying a little away from finances.
You are, but I had the floor, the chance to express it so everyone understands. So, thank you, and we'll move on.
You want to talk about that and
If you'd like to talk about the animal shelter, I wanted everybody to be able to review it, and I don't know if they've had enough time, but yes, we can go right to the animal shelter.
do you think those numbers are accurate?
I do not believe so.
And in what way do you not believe they're?
Well, we had this discussion, you don't know about the price of the building, I don't even know about the financing of the building, and the worst part is the maintenance after we get into that situation, if we ever were to.
How big is Saratoga County facility? Do you guys know?
I did have that information a few months ago. I'd have to dig it back up, but I know that their annual expenses are quite high.
It's over $1 million.
Yes.
And I think that was prior to Article 26C of the Ag and Markets Law being passed, which now puts much more restrictions on how many animals of a given type you can have, what type of enclosure you have to have. That's, from my perspective at least, a brief review of the plan I've looked at, I'm not sure if it would necessarily be compliant with those regulations, and the fact that we're a municipality does not exempt us from those regulations.
Well, I know we just built 2 barns. They're close to 10 million each. One of them's about the same size as what they're proposing on this thing. Because it is interesting, on the front page, they have a 10,000 square foot style shelter. But then as you look into it, they seem to go to a 12 to 14,000 square foot building. So I guess I'm not entirely sure what they're actually proposing. One's 10,000, one's could be 14. And I guess the other question I have is, do these fill up pretty quick?
If you build it, they will come.
But yeah, but it, you know, there was, you know, SBCA built that building out on Orange or out by the airport several years back, and they were going out and actively trying to fill it. You know, at least, and I could be wrong, based on what I've heard so far, I think the concern is that the shelter between two counties, every time there is a massive, I'll use the term animal rate, although it's not a proper term, where
Large
Okay.
case.
yeah, you know, that, okay, now we have this animal shelter, we can just dump them all here. And as I said, the Ag and Markets Article 26C that was just passed in the last year does put a number of restrictions on the type of, you know, type of shelter you have, the type of enclosure you have, how many animals you can have. And just because we're a county, we are not exempt from that. And as I said, without having too deeply into it, I don't know if what's being proposed would necessarily comply with all those regulations. We can't constantly, you know, have 55 animals dumped at once and hold on to them. We, you know, we can take what we can take based on regulations.
But, if there is a known case of that a reasonable person would say was animal abuse or neglect, what avenues does a town or municipality have to go in and claim those animals and return them to a shelter?
I think that they have what's under, you know, what the animal control officer can do under the Ag and Markets law. I think what this, the issue I'm kind of talking about is more the, I'll call it distribution for lack of a better term. You know, if we have a shelter, that's great, but depending on the number of animals taken, we may not be able to, our animal shelter might not be able to take them all. We have to be able to spread them out, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Because it seems to me the case that's being used right now for this interview, I know we've been trying for a long time to mitigate that situation. I truly believe the only thing that changed that situation was the temperature that night. And what that individual did through the animal control officer and the state trooper was what took it to the next level, where they were able to go in and claim the animals. If that hadn't transpired and that temperature hadn't dropped, I don't know if they could have done anything. And I understand the premise of this shelter. But I also think that one of the biggest errors would be is building the shelter, and the laws don't allow you to take these animals that are being abused or neglected and put them in that shelter.
I mean, John had a situation up in his town as well, where the temperature hadn't dropped yet, but I know from another avenue, shall we say, what was there and what was not, and certain things that happened.
My answer on this is that I don't want this level of shelter to be a government function. Because I think about things a little bit differently. I think maybe than some of you. I'm very much an animal rights advocate, if you will. And if we have a government run entity, you get the dogs, state law says you keep them 5 days and euthanize them. You don't find that, you know, there's a 5-day limit on them. That's what we would be doing. That's not what they want to do. They want to have them there all fussy feely and get them all, you know, cute wiggly like the puppies you brought in, and then adopt them out, which is good. We've worked out an arrangement where we let our dog control officer essentially take them after 5 days and act as an adoption shelter. But we wouldn't do that here. We would follow the law, because, you know, otherwise it would cost us $20 million a year to run. I don't think there's 22,000 people that hit the button on the petition to sign want the dogs to come in and be there 5 days and be euthanized. They want a single one of them euthanized, probably. And I would contend that if there's 2,000 or better people that she claimed on her petition, if each one of them, instead of clicking a button with their finger, said, I pledge $100 a year to this function, they'd have an operating budget and go do it, it'd be, a great helpful thing. I don't think it's a government function, I don't think you, I personally, I don't think it wants, if anybody else wants it to be a government.
I did explain that part.
I know, and it both of them shut out.
You know, the amount of energy and activity that's gone into all of this, they could have a not-for-profit in place and actually be rescuing and taking care of and sheltering the animals. And I'm not sure why this hasn't happened. I mean, we have a community management systems. They've done phenomenal work. It's all a not-for-profit. They donate to it. It works. It works out very well. They have to be in the town themselves. But there's no reason why a not-for-profit can do it. I mean, I look at the homelessness of people. We have child abuse registry month out front. Are we talking about that? Are we talking about the kids that we have to ship 20 miles to go to school if they can get to school, because now it's 2 weeks out and you change locations? So now we got a scheduling school bus issue. You know, education comes like with the real thing. And it's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't make it on all the stats, but a very good point made us that, county government is more function, more focused and legitimately should be more focused on people, on kids than on.
Government's elected by the people, of the people, for the people, by the people. That's what I told her, and that's what she went ballistic.
Oh, she went ballistic when you put it in the level.
Well, that could be. I don't know, there was a lot of things. I didn't back off at that point, but that was before we got interviewed. Dave,
I'm a little curious why we're bringing dogs, because we all as towns have a dog control officer. We're not required to do animal control. We're required to have a shelter. So why are the animals going, why is she claiming these animals in Washington County when we're supposed to be taking care of our own?
I think that's gonna change by the end of 27. I believe. I think we're gonna be required to house or something. There's some of the ag and markets laws has changed for the end of 2027, I believe, for our dog control officers. You have information on that?
I haven't talked to Kat. You know, the standards have been upgraded quite significantly for the shelters.
So anyway, just to let you know, I actually printed all those, stapled them, and had them in your mailboxes before I was talking with Tony Jordan. And I had had the discussion with the sheriff, Matt Simpson, never knowing that anybody was coming back. So you were all gonna get the information no matter what. And so you've got it, look it over. I don't think it's a government function, but that's my opinion, and I assumed I was in belief that you all felt the same way. And I think our priority should be kids and people, and, they didn't think it was a choice. They explained that dogs were just as important as kids, and I had a problem with that, and that's when everything unraveled.
I agree with that. Should be private, not. I think a lot of us feel that way. I don't know, you could take a straw poll or something.
I'm sure she'll be back to see you.
I'm told that there may be some type of rally next Friday morning.
I won't be here to witness that.
Because we all are aware.
Oh,
Took it here early, the parking's out.
possibly. Anyway. On to the county administrator and the electric supplier notes. So to let everyone know, when we disconnected the building in Middle Falls, we had, because everything got removed, we lost our account number. When you lose an account number, you also lose everything entitled to you with Mega under that account number. So Middle Falls came back on at the new rate, like 27 cents a kilowatt hour. Even though we weren't using any electricity in Fort Ann because it was closed down. We don't get any credit for that. That's how big it works. So I thank NICEAG for that. I did give them a few choice words that I won't express here. But it still didn't help. So right now we have a chance to renew early on our term that starts in I think it's November. Anyway, what's up?
November.
It starts in November. But anyway, I don't see electric is going down. We were at 8 point something. I would take the 48-month term, and right now, the only thing you can do is sign. You can sign up Middle Falls for that short period, but the last bill was 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour, and you can sign up for 9.5. But the amount of electricity we use during the summer months, it's not like we air condition everything up there and whatever. I guess I would let it ride Middle Falls. That would be my belief, and just let it come on board with everyone else in November. And of course, the Putnam and Fort Ann bills are paid by contract that we have with the towns with the shared buildings. So I don't even know what the rate is. Maybe Sam and Darlene can let us know what those are. Yeah.
I can shed a little light on that for Sam, because we're paying both the town and the county's rates throughout the project, out of the capital project. That might be something, to benefit us in the town. I know our MOU is to have them pay for the stuff, but our rate was significantly lower than the town's. It might be something that we, as we're moving in now, and it's just getting ready to go one single bill, the last bill is getting done at any time, that we might adjust that MOU and entertain us paying the bill and then billing the town for him, because our service would be significantly cheaper than the town's. Because we were in the contract before, but we're losing the contract, but I would almost say we have a better barter, of all our buildings and our accounts than the town does. So that's just something to think about right now, that if we want to save a few bucks, maybe.
For next year.
We can do it.
Yeah, maybe not now.
Well,
And
no,
this is for next year's. So
But do we
we
want to
could,
add that building in?
well, that's what I want to know, if we want that in. I don't know.
I would flush through that. I would say, I would say yes. I think it would save us money. It would save the town money, because ultimately we're paying 40%, paying 60, whether we are the ones that pay the bill here or they pay the bill there. But because of the finance law, we can't pay a bill that says the town of Fort Ann, and we can't say a bill that says, County of Washington. It's a process to do that. So it's just who we put the bill name in, and we're getting ready to switch it over to the town for them to take control. Right now, it's just coming out of the capital project. But is that something that?
Do we wait another month? Way early. Do we wait another month? I guess that's my question now.
Right now, it's in the county's name. On my list of things to do was to call Miranda and his staff and have it switched over to the town's name. So right now, you wouldn't really have to take action other than put it in your.
Well, it would have to be added to this. We wouldn't take
Yeah.
action on this. I think we'd wait another month until we could add that.
Yes, I think
Is
that's
what I'm
I think
thinking at
that's
this
right.
point.
Obviously, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we approved this is the rate as of today.
As of
Right.
tonight.
Right.
So
Next
you-
month will be the rate.
Well, it's already
next month.
down, it's down to nearly a penny per kilowatt hour from what we had last week.
I don't wanna jump in, I'm just giving my opinion. Sam might have a different one for his town, but, that's.
Yeah, we said we agreed to do that before this came along, and we still would do what we needed to do on it. But if we can both save money on it, we would it would just be, instead of them cutting a check to us.
And Darlene can find out from us, because if we can figure all that out, I guess I would wait, would be my belief. I don't know if anybody else feels that.
If we wait on this, so we sign it and it'll take effect in November. Do we direct or make a motion to wait to switch it over to 40?
But we wouldn't switch it over, we already have it, we just keep it.
Yeah, you keep it.
Just-
We would probably need to have a resolution to do that. He's probably right on that.
Yeah.
Jay?
I make a motion that we revise the MO where we retain the
Electric part. And we wanna do that with both, we don't really know, but I'm assuming we wanna do that with both Putnam and 40N. Or do we wanna wait till we know the Putnam price? It's gonna change things. I think just they all should be the same. Because we might be losing money up there too. I assume we are, if that's what
I
we're hearing.
don't.
I just don't have that information.
I'll second what Jay said, you might as well keep it in our name, I'll ask Sam's cool with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Chairman?
It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, well, this, mine was veering off of this immediate discussion. When does that first thing go on?
Well, what you say doesn't have any effect on that, or?
Well, no, I think that, just reading Sue Clayman's very well done
Oh,
memo, by the way.
yeah.
One of the best. Memo
Okay.
that I've seen in quite a while, by the way. But she's just talking about adding Middle Falls, I think. We're focused on Middle Falls here.
Yeah, I don't think Middle Falls will add in November because the rate we're
Well-
paying is 7 something cents, but it was 27 the month before, is why we asked the question.
He said, gotta add Middle Falls to our existing contract.
Yes, which is up in November.
And, she says they're gonna have to do a contract by today. And then me sign it by today. So if, I don't want to sit here in a committee and put something off on something that we need to get done in order to put Middle Falls on our existing rate schedule.
So as you said, we have to move putting Middle Falls on our existing rate schedule today.
No, we can add before the contract starts, but I don't know that you'll get the same rate. That's what I don't know. And the towns can actually go to Mega to get the rate.
You're talking about two different things.
Yes,
You gotta deal with this MOU thing first, and then we gotta talk about Middle Falls. They're two different entire animals, that's why I didn't want to talk.
So you're saying we adopt this rate today? Is that what
but
you're?
we don't know.
Motion on the floor, they take care of that purpose.
No, there isn't, there's a motion to do.
You gotta take care of the other.
Basically, it's an MOU with 40N at this point. That's really what's
Do
up.
we include Putnam on that too, or?
And that's what I don't know.
We can do it.
Can you include Putnam?
We can add,
Leave the motion open to include Putnam,
We
once
can-
the information.
we can actually add all of them later,
Yeah.
but we're here.
Approve what you have now and then add the other.
Of course, if the rate goes up and we don't do it, we'll be mad. If the rate goes down and we did do it, we'll be mad. So. The way it works. So you wanna, so the MOU with 40N. Everybody in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. We will let Darlene get back to us and we'll see if we can add that one later. Now, on Middle Falls, the way I understood it from Sue was they charged us 27 cents last month. Then this last bill, or the first month, the last bill was 7.5 cents. They've offered us to go till November at 9.5 cents. And you can't add them until November with the rest of them. So you either go on at 9.5 or you just include, and they are included in this one that we're looking at passing today. They are included in this whole thing. But I don't think we want to act between now and November because I don't think it would be any more than 9.5. That's what I think, but I be wrong. Oh, yeah, because electricity's all over the.
Yeah, I was taking away a bit of urgency, who's, I'm all here,
Yeah,
talking about I had to run in to sign it, but.
well, that's true, that, because these are only good for today. So. Is everyone interested in doing the 4-year, or do you want to do short? I don't think it's gonna go down.
Agree.
So, I need a motion to pick whichever one you want to pick.
Motion, we go. Second.
Take it by Lance. Any discussion on that? So,
Will we do the same with Easton, Middle Falls? The town?
what's this? No, that's a county building anyway. This is for November and they're included in this already. The only question was between now and November, but you're talking basically 6 months that you could get that.
Well, she could apparently add it to the contract now.
At the 9.5 cent, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know that that's worthwhile when we just paid 7. I don't know
I
the
don't
answer.
care, I just didn't wanna,
Right.
you know,
No, you're right.
miss the deadline because I didn't sign something, didn't go.
So it's according to whether we want 6 months of Middle Falls or not. And I don't think it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Separate. Is that a separate motion? It's here, this one.
Yeah. Okay. We've already done this. So all in favor, say aye on the 4 years.
Aye.
I guess, Gahan.
So how closely to the price of oil are these rates tied?
I have no
Is the
idea.
daily
I
variance
just know that
because of the price?
they changed from half a cent to a cent in about, I guess it's 6/10 of a cent in the 2 weeks we've been monitoring it. That's how much lower it is today. Tells me it's slipped a little bit to it. Yeah, but I
We're
don't
not
know.
talking about huge changes.
Well, Al ran a thing for me when I first asked him about it. And at that time, the 12-month one was 11.1 cent. And if you had that compared to the bottom one, which was 0.09 something, there was a difference of $40,000 in our entire bill. So it's a big number, but not a big number for the amount of electricity we use. And so it's, well, you're trying to save as much as you can, but if you look, the problem is if you lock in at 0.09782, and then you find out 3 months from now, you could have locked in at 0.08, you're not happy, but at least if it's 0.11, you're quite happy, so.
So I kind of look at it, Brian, out of Middle Falls here. If we lock in now, yeah, we might, over the next few months be a cent or two higher than what we might be. But we could have 1 month at 20 cents and that eat everything all up. So I guess it's up to the committee. You want to know where you're at for the next few months? Or do you want to play the?
My
roll the
question
dice?
was, how much electricity will they actually use in these 6 months?
I don't know.
I think it's gotta be the lowest time of the year, just like it is for the rest.
Yeah.
That's why I
We're
was,
probably not talking a lot now.
that's what I was guessing.
Yep.
So either one, whichever you wish.
Make a motion to add Middle Falls now.
Second. I'll have to see the email, what the rate actually is, so everybody knows. I think that should be in the minutes. .0957. To start May and end November. So that's what we're agreeing to.
Yeah.
So I have a motion and a second. What?
9.57.
Yep.
That's less than the 48 one.
Yes. Yeah, because it's when the electricity is your cheapest is right now.
Okay.
Okay. So motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you.
How easy, correct?
Did that motion close? This committee can approve the, because you gotta approve me signing.
That was in the motion.
Was that in the motion?
I'm sure that was in the motion. The chairman will go sign as soon as we adjourn.
We're done here.
Yeah.
You're so authorized.
So authorized, yes.
I'm gonna pause if he needs to sign it right now.
No, I don't think he is.
Okay.
Okay, treasure.
I promise quick, but I can't promise payments.
I noticed that with the top sheet.
So I'm not gonna raise any alarm bells yet, but I can tell you that I'm not happy that for the first time in a very long time, I've got a red number, at least it's red on my sheet, on the far right column. So this time this year over this time last year, for, I think as long as I've been treasurer, we've had at least minimal growth over the year before. This might be the first time I've seen a year over year deficit. I have concerns about that because if we're talking about that, we now have short-term rentals that are now paying sales tax to the city, right? So there's a new revenue source. Gas prices, as you know, I was 409 yesterday. I think I paid it Stewart's.
I bought a new car.
And the chairman's trying to do his part, right? So, again, I'm not gonna raise any alarm bells yet, but I am a little bit concerned that when I would have expected at least moderate growth, we're actually seeing the other direction. So I'm hoping that this is a speed bump, and this isn't a new norm, right? Because the last thing we need going into this budget season is a trend in the wrong direction.
The news is we're conservative.
Dates.
Well, more than likely, we're filling up.
We never know.
Stay
right?
right
There's a
now.
problem, right? And then they come back to us with these reconciliations, right? That 9 out of 10 times NISAC tells us it's fueled by something out of the city. So I'm not sure what you think Common Core math was a joke. Well, sales tax math, I think is maybe even worse. Again, this is just to update you on the numbers. I don't want to raise any red flags yet, but I am not really pleased.
Just a little history, a couple years ago, it's longer than I think, it's long before the pandemic. Saratoga had one hell of a summer. I mean, the place was packed. Their sales tax was way down and they were screaming at the state. Their reconciliation in January was so big, they were up for the year. So we know that they said Saratoga doesn't need it, we're just keeping it. And then, but they made it all up. But so I think they were really accurate in what they were screaming about. It was just an easy way to do it.
You might not ever be able to prove it, but all the flags lead to,
Well, I think Al's description here is right on money. Gas prices are up, all our drivers for Western County are up.
But they were
Our
down
numbers are down.
in this period though. Fuel was down when this was reported. We won't see the up price in fuel for another, 3 months, Al?
I don't have the schedule.
Yeah, I don't have the schedule.
I
It's
don't
like
have the
every
schedule.
3 months.
Some of this is current.
Yeah,
Right.
some of this is current, but
So there's, and at some point I probably should, actually, what I'll do is I'll make a noise for myself for next month. You bring up a good squirrel. One of the things I don't think you all have ever seen other than Brian is every year I get the schedule of sales tax deposits so that I know when I'm gonna get the money, which you see on this sheet. What you don't see is there's a secondary schedule, shows what period of time those collections are for and whether it's the estimate or the reconciliation. I think it would actually benefit the board to kind of have that sheet. Because then when we're talking, when we're having this conversation, you know that this period of time might actually be for January collections, and you're like, phew, thank God, right? Because if this period of time, we had some sales tax remittances that we thought we had a very strong Black Friday and Christmas shopping season, the number wasn't up. Well, when we finally got the schedule, we realized that the actual deposits for those were later than we had anticipated. And there's two different remittances. There's people who remit at like quarterly, and then there's like their ongoing monthly EFT remittances. So the schedule actually shows you who's remitting for what period of time. That might be something that's useful to put in your little bag of tricks. You can throw it in a circular file when you leave, but at least you have seen it at least once.
So the bottom line is, we shouldn't start screaming a la Saratoga County.
I wouldn't yet, Chairman. If we leave second quarter and things don't look any different. I know that sounds.
We think our drivers shouldn't be different.
If you're in the second quarter and this number still is trending down, then we're gonna have a very different conversation, right? So.
we were like almost 1.8 over
So I
budget last year, and we didn't change the number for this very reason, because I didn't dare.
Right, so I look at sales tax with different eyes than Mr. Campbell. right? His goal is to make sure that his budget fits our real world, right? So I appreciate him saying, we'll make budget. I appreciate that comment. Where the butterflies come in my pit and my stomach though is
That's where we get fund balance.
anything over Mr. Campbell's budget is what keeps us strong for tomorrow. I get more concerned with trends, right? I care where we're going. Right, not where we are. I know that sounds like a dumb statement, but for the financial stability of the county, I care more about what tomorrow is bringing than what today is bringing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess my problem is I don't necessarily believe what the state's telling us all.
I don't yet.
Yes, you know, if there's benefit for screaming about this, probably, I think they're screaming as much as possible.
And I don't know that we're there.
Okay, and if your opinion is we're not there, I'll take that, that's great.
I reserve the right to retract next month.
Okay, okay, that's what you should was.
Then the second page, sorry, for Brian.
Well, we expected an impact from the loss of great metals. Maybe it's just delayed impact.
No, that, we should have seen the impact of that way before now.
The national report says car sales are way down. At the same time, fuel went way down,
I know.
but now it's a whole different world. Car sales are probably still down, but
If
fuel
our
is way
sales are
up.
down, that's a big
That's-
indicator
that's
for
what
us,
they're
and
claiming.
it's been our number one forever.
The price of the line off dropped down quite a lot, so probably car sales. Probably indicates car sales.
Every time I give you a report on sales tax, it is our number one driver.
Just kind of check the guy for the difference from sales tax we lost from here to here.
Good idea, Sam, I'll second that.
That word, Chairman?
So the next page is just your cash balances. I give that more for like the audit committee. Because it's my belief that everybody that's sitting on the audit committee and even the full board, when you pass it next Friday. When you're authorizing bills, you should kind of know if you have the money to pay for them. Right, so that's why I share your cash position with you because, the chairman, thank God I don't have a vote on the board because every time he calls the vote on the report of the audit committee, I want to raise my hand and vote nay. Because the number continues to give me a gina, so. But, so you guys should know, as an oversight board, the bills that you're approving, we actually have the cash to pay them. Coming up, I think it's April 23rd. We'll be paying back our $15 million TAN that we took out to get us through the little year-end hiccup. It is my ardent hope that is not repeated this year. I hope stand by. I again reserve the right to come back and say, oops. But no, I think that it wasn't an easy decision for the board or for me, but I think that it did get us through without, we're not worried about paying the retirement bill. We're not worried about making payroll. Part of my report today was supposed to be the report of the tax collections. Unfortunately, there are 3 towns that are not in yet, with legitimate reasons. What I am gonna do for the board though, because I don't think you should wait another month to see it. Once those towns are in and reconciled, I will send you my report of the Turk that elected, the uncollectors turned over to the county. So you can see because sometimes the number of parcels returned is down, but the amount that's returned is up, right? And that's kind of interesting for you all to know that in advance too. So I'm not gonna wait another month to get you that report. When they're done, it'll be sent out to you, so you have it sooner than later. Nice. The some good news, and I'm gonna cautiously give you good news. The budget by function report that ends your packet is a interim year-end report. It right now is showing that we're using $4.3 million of fund balance. Here's where I'm gonna give you some sunshine. I know of $4 million in revenue that's not yet booked because it's all done at year end when we reconcile. There's $800,000 in ILS money and there's $3.2 million in mental health money that's done when we close the books as a one-time adjustment. So I don't know what other, there are always some smaller revenues, but the 4 million that I know about would leave you with $344,000 used in fund balance when you said you were gonna use 3.8 million. So I'm very happy to report that you won't use, there's no world where you will use the 3.8 that you said you would use. Thank you very much. And while we won't be adding to it, we've at least stopped the bleeding. Because out of the 3.8 million that we're not using, you didn't reappropriate any to use in 2026. All the appropriated monies that you appropriated for 26 were some uses of closed reserve balances that were just sitting idle in general fund, right? Rather than levy those on the taxpayers, we chose to use some of the reserves that were sitting idle that we hope to never need. Those funds will need to be found again for 27, but that's a conversation for another day. But the good news is, the March audit is the last audit of bills that can go back to the last year. So I don't see the expense number driving up any more than what you see in front of you now. The only thing that you could possibly see now is some additional revenues that we find closing out grants. A lot of the grants come in as an overpayment, and then as we spend them, that overpayment is transferred into a revenue account. So I already know of 4 million that's in front of me to be done in the next few weeks. As we close out some of the grants, you might find 50,000 here, 40,000 there. So there's a good chance. So I do believe that the 344,000 might be the worst you could use. And there is a chance of actually breaking even and using no fund balance, which would be amazing. But I temper the good news with this. It only stopped the bleeding. We are still far below the floor you set as a board, right? The fund balance policy that you set as a board to make sure that we survive for tomorrow is 20% of the current appropriation, right? So we're probably $22 million should be your, I'm throwing off the hip, guys, so don't quote me on that number, but you're somewhere in the $20 million range is what you set as your desired fund balance. Right, this is gonna get us in like 16,
Maybe.
right? So yes, it's great news that there's a chance of break even this year. But I temper the good news with, we can't just stop the bleeding, we have to actually find a way to restore, right? 16 isn't sustainable long term, not for the county or the taxpayers. So it is great news and on one level, but it's cautiously great news on another, right? So this budget season won't be much more fun than the last one. I'm just putting that out there.
So just to interject how that relates to the budget, if 10% is 4.4 million. And I don't remember if the reserve was 1.2 million, all the different reserves.
1112, something like
But
that.
that means when you add 10%, if you took the budget up 4.4 million, you're only adding 3.2 million at that point in new money. Because you had to make up for what you were already paying for with that reserve. That's where significant difference is. But at the same time, with 57 positions, full-time, part-time, and everything that goes with it, you had breakage from them in 25. They were not budgeted in 26, so there's no breakage for them in 26. So it's really closing in. You're gonna actually be raising taxes for exactly what you need. There's no bailouts, no nothing coming. There's nothing left.
The conversation I used to have with Brian was, if you appropriate $1 million of fund balance, that is the same to me as zero. Because you had at least $1 million of breakage almost consistently between retirements and vacancies and whatever, right? We almost consistently had between 900,000 and 1.1 million in payroll breakage because everybody was required to budget to their staffing. Right, so anytime those positions were filled, so if Brian came to me and said, I need $1 million of fund balance, 1 million in the real world would end up equaling 0. To his point now, that 1 million is now 1 million. It's no longer 0.
All good news.
Ish. It's, I didn't have to report another decrease and I'm happy about that, right? So.
And I know that where our expectation was is DSS are doing incredibly better than what we thought.
There's a noticeable difference in that.
Yeah, and even though the net cost is probably gonna be higher than what was budgeted, it looks far better than what our estimates were.
Yes.
And that was, they still had one left to go in on
We-
revenue that I know of at the point I was looking. And they were already, our estimate was right around 2 million. They were there at the point. They said they still had one more revenue to go in, so it's gonna be under that number.
We threw
I'm
around
proud of them.
2.3 million that
That's a
we
good
thought
job.
was gonna happen, and it looks like that might not come to fruition. Thank you, Brent.
Hey, thank you. Okay, buildings and grounds, maintenance, contract waivers, I think we're right into that. Right into the resolution. A, accept the preventive maintenance heating system and other control contracts.
Reason I was bench.
What time?
We have change in the number
Okay,
for the one contract. And the main, was all the other building furnaces and boilers was out there for 27,008, and I had it advised to look down to 19,435.
90,000 what?
439.
Order thing. Okay. That's the only change?
That was the only change. That was- With my guy.
Cost is now.
The change, I don't know how you wrote the.
Did
you write
math? I wrote an aggregate cost and then I broke out the numbers in each.
Minus 7609, right?
Had that number right on the computer when I left, but I didn't. The whole number up, so it-
At my head, so I gotta add it now.
Yeah, 105.53 has to be addressed.
I have 97,444, but don't trust my math.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah, I'll check.
Sounds exactly like what I had. Well, I had it on the, I just didn't.
They already made one math. You wrote flat.
It is.
Right? Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
I've just been like this number in my head. Okay, so motion by Dave, second by Sam. Any more discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. With Ford and barn change orders, what's next?
I think that's the.
Well, I'm looking at the. I was going out of that at this point. This man was
So
right
the-
here. I'm
the
going.
change order was for, remember, it was the fire pump and the water booster pump for the building. It affects three contracts, electrical site plumbing, electrical site. Got back to me with their proposal and the change order, official one. And the plumbing, they did not have their final number after. Watching my phone, wait for it to come in. So the plumbing, which is the biggest one, 100. I kind of know it's gonna be right in the $165,000 from the plumbing for this. This change order. The site was 14,864. The electrical was 44,564. So Grant total of 224,428, but it's 3 different contracts, so I think you're probably gonna have to change orders 3 different times, 3 contracts. And I can answer pretty much any question, but where they got those numbers from. But that's to boost the village water pressure up to what it has to run the fire system and the.
Yeah, the actual change orders with numbers and the resolutions.
They were supposed to be in last Thursday and then they were supposed to be in Tuesday, and unfortunately, they were pouring into my email. I waited the last second to come up here and I've been watching on my phone, so I don't have those change order numbers with me, Dan.
And what's the say amount again?
The individual amount, the electrical contract, which was Roselle East, $44,564. The site with Roselle Industries is $14,864. And the plumbing, which is the Judger, this is just my number, that's $165,000, and they were probably pretty close to that. So that's a little more. I kind of have some of the inside.
But you'll have that
information. I've been happening.
You'll have that today sometime or tomorrow or what?
Yep, well, they were supposed to have it before now, and I was back and forth with them this morning.
I mean, we need it by tomorrow for them to go out.
They go out tomorrow, otherwise we gotta.
Right.
Decide.
So we don't
I'll
need exact numbers.
when they get out of here. Right, and I can just send you the hard copy and stuff. Of all those change orders, but, Roselle would be change order. Roselle Industries would be change order 2, Roselle East would be change order 2 on their contract, and Jesuit would be change order 1.
So explain to the board how the change order works and what the result is on the total project.
Yep.
Are we spending more money? Are we spending less money? Is it coming from a different area?
That's kind of goes into my next reporting. You can pull it in front of me. We're spending more money. I mean, that's,
But you need a
this
budget.
change order is not anything that was funded or budgeted for, although.
You need a budget amendment.
That's
Well, that's what
yeah.
I'm getting to. As of right now,
Well, part of this motion, so
part of this motion,
we gotta deal with that now.
in my calculation, I believe that we still have enough in that 4-day budget
Okay,
to cover this change order.
so you just need a resolution
I
authorizing the
think I
chairman to
just
sign
need
the
a
date.
resolution. I'd like to verify that with you, after, and we can do it as soon as that's after, but I spent a lot of time yesterday going through this, and using your new world and everything, for the whole budget, and I believe that even with this, it puts us dangerously closer to the actual.
Well, each of those contractors has a current PO out there. If there's enough
Oh,
left,
that's right, so you would definitely have to change their contract.
only if this is gonna exceed the contingency that was built into the contract, right?
It's not
Okay.
for those individual contracts, but not for the project.
Not for the total contingency.
The total project budget, which we set as a board, I believe in that, we still have.
As long as we don't have to amend the line, we can move those POs up and down and.
Yes, that's I think that's all we have to do is move.
So you just need a resolution authorizing the chairman to sign the, change orders.
I just wanted everybody to understand that. 'cause-
So right now, that's 225,000. As of right now.
Moved by Dave, second by Sue and Scott. Is there any other discussion on that, Jay?
And any of these a result of delays that we faced?
Not to resolve it the way, this one is like the hard one, because I should have known this a year and a half ago, that we were gonna have a problem with the water pressure. They took their test in the wrong spot. Well, ultimately, we were never gonna have the water pressure, so even if it was a year and a half ago, and we knew it, we've been having that discussion then instead of at the end of the project, which is, not helpful. We could have had this a year and a half ago, but the water pressure is just, it's not there. And I had to find the calculation problems because they kept telling me, oh no, it's gonna be good, it's gonna be good. And then when I knew it wasn't, I just took a GPS out and I did all the math from the water tower down into the top of the building, and I went from the hydrant they tested back. And my numbers, I'm like, you're 17 foot of elevation off what your calculation was. So they ran it and they missed 17 feet, which at about 5/8 a pound, that's what that pressure sitting at 20 and it should be up closer. So now we get a pump.
Fellas, we're sure this is gonna fix it.
Oh, it's gonna fix it.
Okay.
It's gonna fix it. We'll have all sorts of fun.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Sorry.
Any other financial updates on the projects or?
Well, again, I got Burgoyne in Middle Falls right here. We'll start with Burgoyne. The numbers haven't changed. We still, and my numbers are matching up with Al's. We ended up around $21,000 to the positive on that job. And right now, the general contractor, we just need their payout or their closeout payout, which is their last one, but they owe me all the as-bills and everything, so they haven't got that yet. So as soon as they give me that stuff, you know, and that's like $7,200 coming back to our contract lines. The site is closed out. Plumbing's closed out. HVAC is closed out. And the electric, we're processing right now this month. You know, so that contract will close out and we're done with it. I expect general contractor to come in so to close out next month. They just owe me the paper.
And Matt, if you haven't already, just make sure Becky has the closeouts. So
Yep.
that'll give you a better picture. and
That
you
day
will-
we were in there, she got a lot, these ones are a lot of the ones that she was getting.
Okay, thank you.
And then Middle Falls. We are. We are still to the good. And with my calculations right now, we're close to 400,000 to the good in that project. Our contracts there is the same thing. Our general contractor, they need to close out their contract. So they owe us like the warranties for the building, like all the paperwork that comes along with a project like this. And then we'll release the retainage. Yes, it's boxes. If you've been in my office, I have a lot of boxes in there right now. I have archives and everything else. The site contract is closed out. The plumbing contract, I still am holding on to the 5% retainage. And the only thing they owe me now, they just got me to close out stuff the other day, so it'll be at their last day out, stating that the contract is not zero. The HVAC contract, is closed out. And then the electric, we just the same, we're in the same boat. Their closeout app, which we agreed to release everything. Just that's probably 3 weeks. So I expect their final payout and they'll do that. So those projects are, you know, this actless.
And the fuel situation is nearly conquered.
Well, it's in the process.
I'm sure we can't talk about
It's in the process.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I just want to point out that Matt did finally get the results back from the inspection he did on the roof up there. And it's like a disaster. I think there's 36 different items that need to be done.
Almost close to 55, I think.
Yeah, he hasn't got
55 items along the roof. That was Gallo as a contractor. We, so everybody knows, we paid a third party, which is Greenwood right here, to go do a roof inspection after we had multiple leaks. And they sent back a whole report with all the deficiencies, and they are sending the proposal to repair it. And, you know, we'll have some discussions on how we want to handle that and how we hold Gallo, you know, responsible. What I don't want to happen, they need to be responsible, but I don't want them to tell me that, oh, you don't have to pay somebody to go do that because we're gonna go up there and do it and have it be wrong. What my main goal would be is to have a third party repair it and then pay that bill. Because we can't trust them to do it the right way. No, you know, they're the ones that did it this way. So I did send it out to the architect. I sent it to Sam to review.
Yeah, you want it done right.
Yeah,
It's too much money.
It is.
It should be done
I'm
right.
not a construction guy, but when you look at a vent that comes up out, like, and they put a plate on it, you know, it's supposed to be down and sealed, so it keeps the water out, and it's just hanging up there above it. There's a way up for the water to come in. I mean, it just goes on and on with some of the stuff that was in the pictures that he had.
Matt, is that standing seam?
Yeah.
And is the insulation underneath the, in
So
the
that's the
ceiling?
next, that's the next thing is. We're holding to them that they're gonna have to replace. I don't care if it's damaged or not damaged. They're replacing the section where we know the water line. Because,
Has it been leaking from last fall and the
well, we
insulation
didn't
held
know
it?
it until it really rained, because the snow. Didn't, as the snow would slide down, so it wasn't leaking anything. It wasn't until we just got here. When you got those rains that you started showing
I
up.
didn't know.
So
if
the
insulation-
delay might have done us a favor.
What?
No, honestly.
Right.
I didn't know if the insulation was holding it like a balloon and it just.
Well, it should be. I mean, at 30 something feet up there, from the down, so I imagine it is.
The
I mean,
saturation point, it started gripping.
It is, and, it did. It ran from the top to the bottom, so. Those particular areas will be, they have. So, less than that. There's 2 layers of insulation in the roof, because building codes now are R40. So they do like a R25 and an R15 above what you're looking at. So there's 2 layers. And, he was in the second layer, so, I went through the first, get to the second, get down there.
I think, I actually would think that, and I think, Chairman, this is one of those kind of things that I know we're looking for things to lobby on. This should be something that's lobbied on so that we don't have to take the lowest bidder, because this is the kind of work that we get when it happens. It's just not,
Well, that's if we know,
yeah.
right? If you know it's almost bad, but you don't always know.
Well, that's it, exactly.
That's why we didn't give her going.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to take out an ad and. What happened?
We get a problems. Okay,
I think that's,
thanks so much. We're going back to salt bed, so it'll be the very next page, the tabulation. Anything you want to mention on this, Deb?
Going back to the, like to award the bid so that we have as many options as we can, given the environment over the last 2 years with salt. Last year, there were stipulations that if you went off this salt bid, you could not go off with OGS salt bid, but that's not the case this year, so we thinking of doing half and half. If there's some superintendents are, some are going with OGS, some are going straight with our. So if we award it, we have a assumption.
You have what the ODS bid is?
OGS bid, you have to put in your request, and you have to put in your commitment by April 30th, I believe it is, and you don't know the price until first, second week.
Yeah, that was the problem last year.
And you're committed because you have to purchase, if you tell them you want 100 tons, you have 60, and you can't, the price will change if you purchase more than 12. So you have to buy 60% of what you're committed to. So we talked about it, and a lot of people want to do the approach where they put half of their salt into OGS and half into our salt bid. So it kind of goes a little bit to what you guys were talking about just a minute ago, but going with a little bit, because when we had American rock salt a couple of years ago, there was so much stone that it didn't even go as if we were just paying for stone.
It was that and sign. It didn't say rock salt, it said rock and salt.
And it was hit you every time.
Do we have a motion to?
And you couldn't use that salt in the brine maker either, correct?
Right.
And who'd you use last year, Atlantic?
Yes, this is, and that's who this bid is for. I will point out that on the bid, Appalachia is 25 cents cheaper for zone D. So I talked to purchasing about this, and there's no provisions in our contract that says we have to award it by zone. So we can do whichever you want, and award the whole amount of rock salt to Atlantic and the treated salt to. Treated salt is Appalachia, I think, was it in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the treated salt to Appalachia, that's what we would like to do, given that the price is relatively.
So, Zone D.
Putnam,
Boy, I'll put down there.
Hall,
Button, Preston.
Dresden, and.
Is this price guaranteed regardless of fuel surcharges
There are fuel surcharges.
on top?
On top of that, we have not, they had instituted it for this year. And also, some people were having a lot of trouble getting salt this year on the OGS bid, whether it was in Washington County or across the state. And this bid with Atlantic, they actually trucked it without any additional cost from the bank to us, so that we did that.
Need a motion? Moved by John Rozell, second by Lex Lang. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. They're along, here right in order. Resolution C is County Road Machinery Fund, the 12.8 on the truck said it was over and above because of the tariffs or whatever it was. Moved by Lance or Sam, well, somebody said, move it. I did. Moved by Sam, seconded by Lance. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry.
I just have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
It has come across that it's illegal. Tariffs, so why are we paying something that is then projected as on the tariff for the trucks? It went through the courts and it came out that the tariffs were illegal. This was about 6 weeks ago, maybe you can clarify?
I know the Supreme Court came down with a decision. I don't know if this.
Gotten implementing documents or anything.
Right. And it wasn't cut and dry, what tariffs were affected and which ones. weren't.
Right, some were and some weren't. So we don't really know.
So the question still is, has anybody asked about these tariffs? Are they illegal or should we just hold the money like we've done other things? Like say, because we probably wouldn't get it back.
No, I suppose it's possible if you don't pay, you don't get the truck either. So I don't know what the answer is to that.
Might not end up getting.
So it's just an increase in the price of the truck.
Yeah.
That's what it amounts to.
That's what tariffs are.
Right, international, our dealership, they're paid the 12,000.
For the box, I believe it's not the box or anything.
No, this is a truck.
This is on just the truck.
Oh, yeah.
We're expecting it in on the box.
Yeah, you're gonna get more than that.
So if the dealership, is the dealership paying the tariff? Or are they just?
That's what we
adding the
believe.
Cost of the truck.
No, we believe they had to pay it with the truck, but do I absolutely know? I do not.
This is a 12.8 on 4 trucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 12.8 per times 4.
No.
No. Divided by 4.
It was 3,500.
32.
3,200.
Yeah. Which, you know,
Oh, I know it all adds
It's a lot of
up. I
money.
agree with you.
a lot of money.
I'd like to not pay it, but I don't know that we can afford to not get the trucks because it's one repair bill on something you shouldn't still own. That's a tough one.
These are already from 2 years ago, right? These aren't even this year's truck.
Right. These are the ones that are actually gonna show up. Any more discussion? All fair?
I got a quick, there, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Why could they impose the tariffs?
Well, the PO was cut 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that's not when the truck was actually.
Truck didn't get made. That's why it's taking so long to get them. They finally made them.
It's almost always consistent that our truck, the model year truck we get is a year later than what we ordered,
two,
if my
yeah.
memory is
I
correct.
think it was even 1 year.
Would they have a delivery date up?
Yes, sir.
So do we know the delivery date?
Your clerk of the board's office would have that documentation right now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. E is carry over unspent domestic terrorism prevention grant. Moved by Scott, second by Lance. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Resolution E, public safety for domestic terrorism prevention. Moved by Scott, second by Lance, Sam, Sue, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. F, public safety to carry over unspent hazard mitigation grant.
I'll keep over.
Moved by Scott, second by Sue, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. G is amend exempt salary schedule, district attorney. Who wants to put their name on that? Lance Wine, second. Tim Fisher, any discussion? Yes.
State passes the law, but we pay to go.
Yes. Yeah, and it's, they do, they tie them to the judges. So, and this has been an ongoing thing for as long as I've been around.
My no vote will not be a reflection
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
on it. Nay.
Day.
Nay. We got 3 nays.
Just remind
And
everyone.
again, not a
I
reflection.
will- I will remind everyone at the end of the day, if we don't pass this at the board meeting, he can sue and he will win.
And you're still paying.
I think, yeah, 3 no's,
Unlike the others.
Needs
3
to
no's,
count.
1 present.
He's not getting paid, but
They
he's
can
entitled
have-
to, he wins.
If he does that, then I will be.
Now, if it makes anyone feel better, a few years ago, about 20 years ago, when Rick Meyer was the Essex County Attorney, they tied the county attorney's salary to the DA salary, so feel free to do that.
What if we do it?
I
Dan?
know,
What if-
I was just gonna mention exactly what Dan said.
There you go.
Oh, you got 1 person.
Okay. H, amend the staffing pattern titled by grade schedule to add alternative sentencing intern. We've already been through this. We moved the money last month. Moved by Sam, seconded by Dave. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I is treasurer's office for bond council services. You want to explain that?
This is a resolution you see every year because when I do the renewal in March, we don't budget for this cost until we know the cost. Because the amount of money that you spend is tied to how much you borrow, and we don't know how much we're gonna borrow until February the year that we borrow. So each year you have to amend my budget to cover the costs, and we didn't know at budget time.
I move. Moved by Sam, second by Lance. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. This one has a number.
Yeah, this is the one that I sent the email on after I got for the update, just as I said, I went to law school, because I didn't understand anything of math. But turns out, I thought, figure it was 6 figures, turns out it's only about 10,000, just wanted to make sure the board still had an appetite to do it.
So there's no basic math in law school either.
No, there's not.
1 + 1 be 3.
Explain the billings.
Yes.
So that was my fault. I wanted to make sure everybody had another opportunity if they wanted to do it.
You know, Dan, that's where we're gonna get your raise from, so.
Ouch.
Was higher than we thought.
It would have been a lot higher if that were the case.
Okay, so do we need to pass this, or you just wanted to know that we were?
Reaffirmation.
Reaffirmation. Okay.
Reaffirmation.
Motion and resolution 105.
Lance Lang, second. Tim Fisher, everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We're carried. Good. And last one, I know Deb explained this to me before we started, and I forgot everything about it. It's an agreement, right? That was,
It's an agreement that the last time it was signed, I believe Mr. Hall was the chairman.
7 years ago or something.
Right, and the public safety department needs a waiver from the purchasing policy and an authorization for the chairman to sign. I know they have to create it, I guess we'll have to create a page for the chairman to sign, because no space.
They didn't give us a page to sign.
It would be, I think, year 1 is 27,000, year 2 is 27, and third year option, so.
It's never changed in the whole period of time. I'm moving, maybe I should. Move by Sam, second by Dave. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Carried. Is there anything I missed on this sheet?
I'd like to make one comment.
Yes.
Going back to the DA salary. I don't think he'd even be in the top three with our ATV salaries.
No.
I think our
you're
ATVs
right.
are making more than our DA. I think if my math is correct, I believe we have at least
I
three more making
believe
more
you
than our
could be
DA.
accurate on that.
Keep that.
And it might be more, we just don't know where else they go. We have no idea.
I think it needs just from us.
Just from us.
You're doing just from us, but I
Washington
mean,
County.
I might all be making.
It speaks to your recruitment problem that Dan tried to bring up earlier, I think.
Yeah. Anything else to come before the board? Any others? We're all good? Chairman, you're gonna remember to go see Sue and sign the paperwork?
Do it right now.
Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.